Joining us now from Alabama is Republican Senate candidate Arnold Mooney. Arnold, thank you very much for joining us tonight. So we kind of went through the Democrat candidates and really what they have done successfully so far and really their hurdles that they've kind of overcome so far. What is your take just in general of the Democratic field?
My take of the Democratic field is they've got a long way to go. They're not going to cover the hurdle of Donald Trump. The Republican candidate for president is going to destroy all of these goofy candidates that are running from the radical socialist left. Their whole message doesn't resonate with American conservatives, and they're going to show up, they're going to turn out, and they're going to support our president in record numbers.
And speaking of President Trump, in the state of New Hampshire, he actually broke the record for the most votes of any incumbent president in that state's primary. So the idea of enthusiasm actually behind his campaign might come as a little bit of bad news for Democrats, who actually saw a little bit of uptick themselves when it comes to voter turnout than we saw in Iowa. So there is good news for them, I guess, on that front, too. But I want to speak a little bit about your campaign, too. You're, of course, now running for Senate in Alabama. Why did you decide to run this election cycle?
This election cycle came very quickly because it was a situation where I had chaired Mo Brooks's U.S. Senate campaign in 2017 and had a great experience doing that. Mo decided not to run, and we're in the race. We're in the race to deliver a message. It's a message very clear about our nation and what's at stake. The radical left's effort is to destroy our Constitution, to destroy the First Amendment, the Second Amendment. I mean, where are we if we don't have the right to free speech, the right to worship, and the right to protect ourselves? The right to protect ourselves covers everything in relation to defending the Constitution. We've got to defend it. Mm-hmm. Foundational values are at stake right now. The future of our children and grandchildren is at stake. What are we going to leave them? A legacy of freedom? Or are we going to leave them a situation where they are in a real lurch with these radical leftists, but also with debt? The whole process of dealing with the American debt situation. $250 billion off the southern border last year is what the estimate is. Record revenue in Washington from our president, and the tax cuts that were brought in such great revenue for our nation and growing it. But we're still spending. We've got a spending problem, not a revenue problem. We've got to take care of this future generations.
Right. I mean, the deficit this year alone, actually, to your point, might hit $1 trillion. And I have to put a little bit of a burden whenever people say that on Republicans as well, because the deficit is still rising under Republican leadership as well. It's something that isn't just a Democrat problem anymore. It's been something that's happened a little bit, whether you want to put it on a budget, whether you want to put it on the deficit, whatever you want to be. But I do want to come back to your campaign a little bit, too, because, of course, your potential challenger, the incumbent in the state, is Doug Jones. He just recently had his vote on impeachment. He's the Democrat in that state who defeated Roy Moore in the special election. Do you think that control of the Senate, of course, Doug Jones has an uphill battle as the incumbent, which is kind of weird to say. Do you think that control over the Senate is still going to be very competitive for Republicans, or are you looking to kind of build on that majority?
I think the Republicans are in good shape. In Alabama, Doug is one and done. He's gone. The Republican Party will elect a Republican senator for the state of Alabama, which is representative of our state. He doesn't represent us in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Quite frankly, as he raises money from out of state, my goal is to see Doug Jones have a new zip code somewhere outside of the state of Alabama. Send him some other place where he seems to be more comfortable with who he is, because the people of Alabama certainly aren't interested in Doug Jones. He doesn't represent life. He doesn't represent conservative values, foundational values that need to be returned to Washington. You're talking about debt. The whole process there is spend, spend, and spend. There's plenty of revenue. They've got to stop spending. We've got to have someone go to Washington who's going to say no to the elites of the Republican Party, elites of the Democratic Party. And I know how to do that because I've done that in the state of Alabama in our legislature. I know how to be the same guy the day that I walk out that I am the day that I walk in.
And, you know, it's going to be a big issue, too, going into the next election because you bring up spending. And a lot of these progressive challengers, I mean, talk about spending proposals. They have things such as Medicare for all, free college, eliminating student debt. Those type of proposals alone are greater than the current U.S. budget that we have right now. I mean, it would double, essentially, what we're spending right now over the span of 10 years. It's a very expansive type of program. So the points that you're bringing out, I think, are important ones. But for all our viewers, too, if you want to learn more about Arnold Mooney and his campaign, you can go to arnoldmooney.com. Arnold, I really appreciate you coming on tonight. Thank you.